Good morning, everyone. Well, today I've taken out some time to talk about the Shakespearean tragedies. So it's a beautiful morning today. So nothing can be better rather than trying to justify the qualities that Shakespeare inhibited as a tragedian. So Shakespearean tragedies, they do not have much to say. This is just a legendary term that you say. So Shakespeare was born in 1564 and he died in 1616. So this Bard of Avon, so as we call Shakespeare as, so created very great elements for the readers and the audience to view and read. So they set great examples and footmarks for the literarians to follow. So generally we talk about the tragedies, the first thing that come in our mind is the tragic end, the climax, the rise of a hero, and then the fall again. We'll try to bring about a certain interpretation so that the students get benefited from this video and they understand the basic instinctive qualities of Shakespeare as a tragedian. So generally there cannot be differentiation between this tragedy and that tragedy, but people generally create such differentiation from their fascinations towards Shakespeare. So when you bring about differences between Aristotelian tragedy and Shakespearean tragedy, the first thing that you need to point out is that Aristotelian tragedy is mostly unified and linear in nature. That means it's a very single story. It's a very unified. So unified, it means like linear or single in nature. So you do not have much of deviation. You do not have much of transformation from one story into another, right? But generally, when it comes to the Shakespearean tragedies, so it's interwoven. That means you have plots under another plot, that is subsets or subplots are there. So that is the greatest speciality and instinctive feature of Shakespearean tragedy. So if you try to categorize them, actually it's not good to categorize them, because there has been a lot of controversies and a lot of misconceptions regarding categorization of tragedies of Shakespeare. Okay, but generally the readers, they try to depict it in that way. So you can say the first folio era, or the region of first folio. So that in that you find the first tragedy or the first play, that is Titus and Dionysius. That is the first one in the Folian era, and then you have the Senecan era. That is the most significant one, because in that one you find the most popular one. So when I say Titus and Dionysius, there are many people who haven't read about it or may have not heard about it, right? So when we generally come about our research about Shakespeare, you need to bring them. But generally when people are not bringing about such research, you hardly do not hear these names. Yes, but when you talk about the Senecan era, you find the popular tragedies like Macbeth, Julius Caesar, Hamlet, you have Othello, then you have various tragicomedies as well. So when I say tragicomedy, that is a mixture of both tragic elements and comedial elements. So you find various elements of sensuousness. There'll be a rise, there'll be a fall, there'll be comedian elements. That is the instinctive and qualitative feature of Shakespearean tragedy. So, but when I say Shakespearean tragedy, one thing struck in my mind, that is I shouldn't generally utilize this term Shakespearean tragedy, because it's not an authentic or orthodox categorization of a tragedy. But as I said, the various bulk of readers have termed it or categorized it as Shakespearean tragedy. So when I say about the Shakespearean tragedy, there are elements of foul play, betrayal, the rise of a hero. That means you're soaring in the air, okay, and then you fall back to the ground, okay. So there is a saying, dust thou art, to dust returnest. So human being is made of dirt, or you say dust, or you say mud, whatever you say, and then again you come back to the dirt, dust, or the sand, okay. So from your very origin you can go higher, you can mold yourself, you can develop yourself, then again you fall back to your own central place, okay. That means you can die or you can fall. So if we talk about the speciality of foul play, supernatural elements, the utilization of figure of speech, puns and all, metaphor, various elements that he brought in there, okay. Then you talk about the extramarital affairs, okay, the climax and anticlimax, they become very, very interesting to make the hero a more heroic element. So a hero is already a person who has heroic element, but it is the quality of Shakespeare that brings about more instinctive beauty into that hero and makes him more heroic in nature. So when you talk about Julius Caesar, so you see Caesar is a very dedicated, or you say ambitious ruler. So when I say ambitious, actually generally this ambitious ruler is like of he had certain quality of being a dictator. So I'm talking about an era which is at least 1000 years earlier from now. That is in reality that happened in Italy or Rome. Okay, so in his capital he used to go and used to rule. Okay, and used to bring about proper justification. But the thing is that he had many enemies, and it's nothing very unnatural. You're not having enemy as a king or ruler, and when you're a dictator, you will have many people to say something against you, because you are curbing the rights of democracy. You are not allowing the people to speak, so naturally your freedom of expression and speech is curbed. That means you'll have people to say something against you, and there'll be people who are ready as a hyena to kill you. So there's a saying that he had been stabbed 23 times. So you see, when I say stabbed 23 times, it's not very low. That means you can understand the conspiracy was very strong. There were people who were conspiring long time ago. The Casca bring out the first stabbing, and then you have Brutus, who was a very noble man and a great friend of Caesar too. So the term "et to Brute," that means you too, Brute. That means he never expected Brutus to be one of them to come and stab him. He was a dear friend, a loyal friend. Okay, and he was also a very strong person in the ruling segment of Julius Caesar. He was a very trustworthy man, and people liked him as a noble man. He had a great fan follow. So if you say who can be the alternative of Julius Caesar, you can have Antony and Brutus. But Brutus had more speciality as a king, or to be the next king. Okay, but you see, when people conspire against you, you do not know, because they're hatching the plan behind you, right? So you are just in your origin, you are in your center, you're doing your work, okay, your daily justifications, your work and activities, but behind your back people are ready to stab you. So that same thing happened in Julius Caesar, and the quality of Shakespeare is that he brought out these elements in such a way people loved it from the core of their heart. So you see the Ides of March, that is 15th of March. Sometimes the French itself they say today's Ides of March. So the soothsayer bringing our soothsayings, then you have bringing out good elements of mixture of proper proper tracks are coming up with plots. So when you have tracks and plots, that means plot inside a bigger plot. So those can be termed as tracks in literature, right? So Julius Caesar was murdered in the capital. Okay, so he was trying to fight back, but his fighting capacity, or his trial to come back or trying to win back against this enemy was stopped when he saw Brutus coming and stabbing. Okay, so when you find your dear friend coming and attacking you, you have a sense of betrayal. You have been betrayed. You do not have a sense of fighting back. So that you see our king has risen and then he has fallen back again. So that has been well justified by the quality of writing of William Shakespeare. So we all know he's the father of English drama. Then we have Henrik Ibsen as the modern English literature's father, right? But they have their own qualities. But Shakespeare is like unchallengeable. His orthodoxal writing makes him more popular. So when I say orthodox writing of Shakespeare, but this orthodox nature of Shakespeare is unorthodox for many other dramatists. Why? Because his elements of tragedies, supernatural elements, uses of various figures of speech, bringing in a proper introduction and then a tragic fall. These are the ones that make him more exclusive in nature, right? So these capacities make him more capacious in nature as a dramatist, right? And you see the Elizabethan era. Okay, the era of Elizabeth has been enriched by his literature. Okay, so this area of 1564 to 1666 cannot be challenged. So you talk about another tragedy of Othello, where or you can say trio of love relationship has been crafted, where there has been a lot of doubt. Lago was deprived. So when I say it's deprived, actually it's not deprived. Whatever was his quality, depending on that circumstance, he was not promoted. Maybe he felt deprived. I would not say deprived. He felt deprived. So when I say felt deprived, that is the time he created some sense of revenge. He wanted to hatch a plan. So the general, so Othello was having a sense of doubt against his wife, and then you have Emilia, such a great character who was a very loyal mistress. When I say mistress, do not take it the other way, because this mistress like is the attendant to her mistress. So she is to be an attendant of Othello's wife, but her husband was quite very much contradictory in nature. Now, Lago was trying to create a sense of doubt into the mind of Othello, so that Othello at the end he murders himself, and then he could not bear the death of Desdemona. Okay, so when you say he loved Desdemona, there is no doubt in that. And when you try to analyze the characteristics of Desdemona as a person, you'll feel very much sad about it, because some people say she died virgin. That means there is no chance of cheating uh, Othello as a person or as a husband, because there is no strong and hard fact. But people argue and say that she died virgin. That means there is no chance of extramarital affair here, right? But as I said, Lego was successful in creating a core of doubt into the mind of Othello, that he was being cheated by his wife. So when you have that sort of doubt, it's quite natural that there'll be a tragic fall. The hero rises, creates an environment of love, and then there is a fall. But the same thing happens in Macbeth. You see, the wife wants to see her husband grow higher. King Duncan has been invited for a very rich dinner where rich food was served, and then again stabbed and murdered by the general himself. Yes, King Duncan was a very good man, but he had his own weakness. Okay, he could not fight the wars for himself. He had the help of his so-called the generals. Okay, he thought they were very much loyal. Okay, yes, they were loyal to certain extent, but the witches and the elements that brought out supernatural element was giving out proper signs that there will be a sign of betrayal which is going to come up in the future. And then what you saw, where Macbeth says, "I go and I finish the murder." Right? So there's a quotation like that: "I go and finish the murder, and I've been called by the bell." So a bell has signaled him to go and finish the murdering scene. Right? Then we find the doctor seeing Lady Macbeth, rubbing her hands. Okay, because that stain of blood. You see, that's not physical blood. That is, you have been mentally disturbed by the act that you've committed. You have been responsible for the murder and killing of your own king. You are a host, right? You have invited your king, but at the cost of your king's death, you have become the next ruler. So it's not unnatural that you don't want yourself to go high, but not at the cost of the death of your own king. Because when you're becoming the general, you're bound by the oath that you're supposed to serve the king both in domestic and warlike activities and time, right? So this oath has been violated by Macbeth, and then he felt the consequences. How did he feel the consequences? He grew higher, and he soared in the air. He had his own over ambition, but see, there's a differentiation between ambition and over ambition. His over ambition has been killed by his own elements of betrayal, and then you find the fall of Macbeth. You see, Lady Macbeth always was busy instigating her husband. You don't find it bad that you instigate your husband, but not at the cost of the death of your own king. So you're bringing about a sense of instability. When you are becoming the king, that is a second phase. A death of one king, then another king sits in, right? But in the middle, there's a sense of instability. You are depriving the son of the king, right? Because they could also be the heir to the throne in the future. And then finally, you see, the witches bring about prodigies. You find the soothsayings. These are the special elements in Shakespearean tragedy. Okay, I spoke about Antony Cleopatra as well. You see, Antony Cleopatra, you see, the love affair makes a king, it makes a king useless. The king forgets his duties, and he forgets his loyal subjects. He stays back in Egypt. He's ready to be, bounded by the love and the sex lust. The lust of sex is very dangerous, and he fell into the trap of that, and he forgot about his activities. He forgot what are the duties of a king. How do I justify my own subjects, and what are the duties that I have for my own subjects? He forgot about that. He forgot his warlike activities that he's supposed to carry out from day to day, right? So when you are a king, you're bound by the oath to protect your own subject. You're supposed to fight the wars and enlarge your boundaries. That is the very much basic natural instinct of a particular king. You want to grow higher, but when you fall into the trap of a beautiful woman, okay, it's not bad to be in touch with a beautiful woman, but when you forget about your own activity and your job, then that time it becomes very, very dangerous. Then you have a tragic end. That is what we find in this great writing of Shakespeare, Antony Cleopatra. And this is sometimes regarded as a double tragedy, a tragedy inside a tragedy. But the other tragedies are generally most multilinear in nature. You have plots inside the plots, you have instigations, foul play, supernatural element mixed with figures of speech, and there has been a sense of doubt. This creates a climax, and then with the climax you have a super anti-climax, then you have a fall. So this sort of elements make Shakespearean tragedy more exclusive in nature. the art of crafting the information. Plots are woven inside another plot. Okay, and the students find it very interesting. There are certain theories which has not been which have not been directly mentioned in the place, but the students, when they write the answers for English literature, or in the examinations, when they sit, they try to create their own features. Okay, they try to understand what happens after another. That is the speciality of Shakespearean tragedy. It makes you more fascinated, it makes you bite over to the theory. So when you're biting the theory, one theory comes after another theory, so that is consequential element. Okay, a simple story is being followed by another story. Okay, that is creating it more elaborate, and the readers, they find it very very interesting. They deep into the the joy of English literature. It makes a person more makes a person more attracted towards English literature. And that is the quality of Shakespearean tragedy, to draw more audience and readers. Okay, although they are of such qualities that they're fit to be in textbooks, but sometimes people who do not even to belong to the English literature background, they take out time to read them and justify them. And such a great dramatist, we say he was very much unique and very much exclusive because of his special element. So whenever these tragedies were dramatized into the stage, so even that time we try to understand, okay, what a great man he was, like what type of element was he able to craft so beautifully into these tragedies, and that makes it more unique and fascinating. So students, when they read them, they try to justify this writing. They never fall short of words. So when I say that you are trying to justify a tragedy, you're falling short of words. That means you do not have proper material to write. But Shakespearean tragedies had enough rich material and information to to feed into the copies and the answer script of the students. Okay, so that is the way Shakespearean tragedies, they ruled about the other tragedies. When you're ruling the other tragedies, you're creating your own benchmark and footprint for others to follow. So that's all. I think the students have found it interesting. Please do motivate us, like this video, and so that we can create more videos in the upcoming days, and we can enrich the era of English literature. Thank you.